Welcome to MojoPlays, and today we are putting our tinfoil hats on and looking at the 10 most popular Final Fantasy theories. With a series as long-running and consistently fresh as Final Fantasy, players are bound to unpack these games and create their own ideas and speculate. Whether these theories were eventually confirmed, denied, or are still a mystery, as long as they are popular, we're going to talk about them. Before we continue, we publish content all week long, so be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified of our latest videos. Renoa is Ultimecia. Renoa and Ultimecia, just a couple of stone-cold witches. Renoa in a lot of ways is the stark opposite of Ultimecia. However, some fans question whether they could be the same person. Obviously, and it's hard to ignore, this is reason number one, the striking similarity in their facial features is uncanny, while their overall appearance are diametrically opposed. Furthermore, Renoa's evolution into a sorceress akin to Ultimecia suggests a potential for persecution and animosity towards Seed. The speculation intensifies with theories suggesting that Renoa, following Squall's demise, might succumb entirely to her darker side, which we got glimpses of from time to time. The final nail in the theory coffin is Ultimecia's pet lion, a lion that she may have got in memory of her long-dead love, as it bears heavy resemblance to the emblem on Squall's pendant. Summons dwell in the space between worlds. Whether we're talking about summons, Aeons, or garden fighters, Ifrit, Shiva, Behemoth, and Leviathan have become iconic figures in the Final Fantasy franchise, gracing almost every game since their introduction in Final Fantasy III. Their immense power to change the tide of battle has proven an ever-useful tactic when taking on some of the harder bosses in the Final Fantasy universe. Their consistent presence across seemingly different universes has led fans to theorize that these summons may inhabit an intermediary realm bridging the worlds of each Final Fantasy installment, allowing them to show up where they're needed, when they're needed, for both Tidus and Cloud. Something is up with Aith. Given that you can count on one hand the number of controllable characters who permanently perish in Final Fantasy games, it's natural for fans to continue allowing this theory to grow and circulate, that Aith was initially meant to survive. The idea that Aith was supposed to survive has been commented on and divulged by fans and devs for years. There are questions answered and more questions arising, but nobody can disagree with one cold hard fact. There is something going on here. The biggest red flag for theorists is that there are lines of dialogue for her within the game files after her death, which are instantly filled by her when you return her to the party with hacks and modifications. It's plausible that her utility and significance led to assumptions that her death was a late addition to the storyline. Final Fantasy VII is a religious metaphor. Sephiroth is Jesus! Not really, I just wanted to scream that. Sephiroth's ethereal appearance, characterized by his long white hair and single wing, has prompted fans to ponder the potential religious influences within Final Fantasy VII. I know, it seems far-fetched, but there's more. Even though he has his own resurrection and second coming, Sephiroth's unmistakable evil nature and fallen angel-like demeanor suggests a closer association with the original fallen angel, Lucifer. This theory gains further traction considering that Sephiroth's name draws inspiration from Sephar, a term in the Hebrew Bible denoting the 10 manifestations of God. Additionally, Jenova, Sephiroth's mother, bears a notable resemblance to Jehovah, the biblical name for God. Even character names such as Cloud evoke a heavenly connotation, while Tifa's Bar, the meeting place for the Avalanche group, is aptly named Seventh Heaven. I know it seems like we're just connecting red threads, but isn't that half the fun? Shinra connects Final Fantasy VII and X.
What are you looking at? Farplane data.
Here is a theory that grew in popularity and was eventually confirmed by the main scenario writer Kazushige Nojima and laid out in the Final Fantasy VII Ultimania Omega. After the events of Final Fantasy X Part 2, Shinra, the young boy that helps the group, who can also be seen in an image in the Final Fantasy VII Remake, endeavored to develop a system harnessing the Fair Plains energy. However, his efforts proved futile at the time. Nevertheless, over the course of 1,000 years, his company would eventually achieve success. This company would evolve into the infamous Shinra Electric Power Company. You know, from Final Fantasy VII, shut up, Wedge and Biggs. Now, although characters by the name of Wedge and Biggs appear in almost every Final Fantasy entry to date, this theory suggests that the Wedge and Biggs from Final Fantasy VI are the same Wedge and Biggs that appear in the alternate Square Enix title, Chrono Trigger. The original English translation of Final Fantasy VI mistakenly referred to the character Biggs as Vix. Similarly, in Chrono Trigger, two characters named Biggs and Wedge were subject to the same switched identity, with Biggs being referred to as Vix. A fan theory posits that the Biggs and Wedge from Final Fantasy VI were inadvertently transported to another reality by Valagamanda, landing in the world of Chrono Trigger, and it was there that they were recruited to join the circus troupe. Gilgamesh travels between Final Fantasy worlds. There are hundreds of theories about particular beings, monsters, summons, and characters having otherworldly abilities that allow them to traverse multiple games. We've already discussed two of them, and here's a third. Initially introduced in Final Fantasy V, Gilgamesh is sucked into a dimensional vortex at the game's conclusion. Many fans speculate that this event serves as the catalyst for his appearance in the subsequent games, and it's not the wildest theory we've heard. In fact, it makes a lot of sense. It's believed that traversing through this void enables Gilgamesh to manifest in various forms across different entries in the franchise. Players have also observed that Gilgamesh often wields swords resembling those of the main characters in multiple games, hinting at his potential travels to these worlds before, collecting a piece of his enemies, if you will. Will you? You better.
To the rightful owner, the swordsman Gilgamesh!
Shared world. Another on our list of popular theories that were later confirmed, this theory suggests that Final Fantasy Tactics, Final Fantasy XII, and even Vagrant Story all take place in the same world. Final Fantasy XII unfolds in the nation of Ivalice, a realm characterized by political unrest and conflict. Interestingly, Final Fantasy Tactics shares this setting, portraying its own version of Ivalice, similarly embroiled in perpetual warfare. Tactics contains a reference to a bygone era marked by the proliferation of airships, a motif prominently featured in Final Fantasy XII's narrative. Although the timelines are distant, the worlds are in fact one and the same. Three Faces of Eve. This is one of the cooler theories on our list, and it has a lot of evidence to support it. The Three Faces of Eve was a psychological case study depicting a woman with multiple personalities, each representing distinct stages of her development. Theories suggest that many Final Fantasy games utilize this concept to create their female characters, each representing a different face of Eve. Across all games, there are typically three main female characters, each embodying a different stage of the archetypal feminine journey from childhood through adolescence and finally to maturity. Don't believe us? Hear us out. Yuffie, Aerith, and Tifa, Selphie, Renoa, and Quistis, Riku, Yuna, and Lulu, Realm Terra, and Celis. Need I go on? Because I can! Squall dies. This stands tall as one of the most significant and popular Final Fantasy theories of all time. In Final Fantasy VIII, towards the end of Disc 1, Edie fatally wounds Squall by impaling him with a large shard of ice, causing him to plummet from a platform. However, when Squall regains consciousness, he finds himself in a cell, miraculously healed with no trace of his previous injury. Curiously, this sudden recovery is never addressed again in the game. From this point onward, the tone of the game shifts from its initially realistic nature to a more surreal and fantastical approach in Disc 2. The overall dreamlike quality in the narrative following Squall's apparent demise leads many to interpret this as the moment akin to a life flashing before one's eyes. Some fans view Squall's story as having reached its definitive conclusion in Disc 1, with the subsequent events serving as a reflection or exploration of his subconscious mind. In other words, it's all a dream. Ugh. Ultimately, and due to its popularity, this theory was eventually disproven, but still holds strong. I mean, art is subjective, right? Right? Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from MojoPlays and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified of our latest videos.